Well, good morning, good people. Mark Holmes here, of course, with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo, as well as Joe Bear in the house. And as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. So let's get open for business here, and let's wake up the football gods. I'm going to try and get through. I've restarted this video a couple times because I just started coughing like crazy. You know, I've been dealing with this illness and stuff. It's getting better, but it's evolving. It went from being kind of a sinus head cold and all that, where it was like my head was in a vice, to now being kind of more in my respiratory system and stuff. So try and get through without coughing. But we have some breaking news from Jerry Jones, who was asked last night about Antonio Brown. But before I get to that, we have even bigger news that actually broke this morning. You know, I'm an old guy. And when you get older, some of you guys are going to find out, once you turn 50, things don't work the same as they used to when you were younger. And you wake up in the middle of the night, got to go pee. Now, for me, I am constantly busy doing stuff, okay? Constantly. So I take every opportunity I can to try and get more knowledge. So, you know, thank God for smartphones. You don't have to walk around with the computer going to the bathroom in the middle of the night, but you go through and start doing some research. And I came across a piece. They were talking about chicken wings. Now, you know, Philly 500 is, always, saying that I'm sacrificing 1,000 chickens and chicken wings and all that stuff. But you couldn't last year because the price of chicken wings had went literally through the roof. Give you an example. Normally, I go to Restaurant Depot. I buy a case of chicken wings. It was like $78 for 40 pounds. Great deal, about $1.89 a pound. And they're already pre-cut, and they're putting the 10-pound bags in there. They're pre-cut, they're fresh, so that way I can take them right out the box and start cooking them up. I can put the other bags in the freezer, so that way I have a bag for, like the next 4 weeks. That's a deal. So you figure $20 a week for game day? That's great. But during the course of last year, because of the pandemic, because people were staying home and not going to Buffalo Wild Wings, more and more people were buying chicken wings because they got an air fryer and would throw them in the air fryer. So chicken wings literally at Restaurant Depot went to like $160 a case. So when we did the tailgate at FedEx, we were spending $160 a case. Now, it was worth it to, bitch slap the Washington Commanders or the Washington football team or the Redskins or whoever the hell they are this week. But that was ridiculous. But now, the price of chicken wings has gone down below pre-pandemic. And maybe, just maybe, this will help with some of that inflation that we've been dealing with. Price of gas has gone down. Chicken wings have gone down. Maybe the economy's not as bad as we thought. I know one thing. As soon as I get over this cold, I'm going to go buy me a couple of cases before they have a chance to jack up the price and get them in the freezer, because at least that'll cover me for 8 weeks of the season. That's almost halfway through the season. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, back to Jerry Jones, okay? Jerry Jones was asked about Antonio Brown. Could the Cowboys have interest in Antonio Brown? Let's go to the tape and hear exactly what Jerry Jones had to say about that. Okay.
So Jones, what'd you think of the shorter preseason? What'd you think of the shorter preseason?
There you go. We can do.
Well, of course, we love being here in Oxnard and being here in Southern California, so that makes up for a shorter preseason.
All right, thanks a lot.
And will Antonio Brown ever play for Dallas? Mr. Jones, Antonio Brown wants to play for you. Will he ever play for you?
Well, good, but we want to give these young guys a real chance to make this.
He could, but we want to give these young guys a real chance to compete. Let me play it again.
What'd you think of the shorter preseason? What'd you think of the shorter preseason?
There you go. We can do.
Well, of course, we love being here in Oxnard and being here in Southern California, so that makes up for a shorter preseason.
All right, thanks a lot.
And will Antonio Brown ever play for Dallas? Mr. Jones, Antonio Brown wants to play for you. Will he ever play for you?
Well, good, but we want to give these young guys a real chance to make this team.
He could, but we want to give these young guys a chance to compete. Okay. All right, so how are we going to take that? That's here's my thing. I always say Jerry Jones is like that jackrabbit for the dog races that jumps out, everybody follows behind him and everything else. And then the real work is done elsewhere without people bothering them. Do I think that Antonio Brown will play for the Cowboys? I don't think so. And that was one of those gotcha moments by TMZ where, they're asking him off the cuff, could Antonio Brown play for you? He could. I mean, you never say never because you never say never. You never burn any bridges. But he's saying we want to give the young guys the chance to play. So I think let's give it the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is CeeDee Lamb gets hurt and the younger guys underperform. We got drops left and right. They can't run routes and Dak and everything else. That would be probably the only scenario where you look at it and say, maybe Antonio Brown could be signed because CeeDee Lamb got hurt and the other guys can't do anything. That would be about the only chance, but I would say that chance is about, about as a good chance of winning that $1 billion jackpot. I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't think that that's going to happen. But today, what we're going to have is we will have the Dallas Cowboys practicing again against the Chargers. We will go ahead and do a live stream again. We're watching the feed on NFL Network and stuff and trying to get it also to, sometimes the Cowboys will carry it on their website or on their YouTube channel. And we'll be doing a live stream. It's more like just hanging out middle of the day, being able to talk, but getting some of the highlights. The way the coverage was done yesterday was really shaded towards Justin Herbert. They showed Justin Herbert more than anything else, and of course had the commentary and everything else. It wasn't that we went through and we watched individual drills. We got a few highlights and stuff, but at least we can get a taste of what's going on. At least we can see in real time if somebody's getting hurt and so more, and we can see at least some of the highlighted plays that were happening in practice. Now yesterday, I don't know what this is, from Sean Penn. I got this in the mail yesterday, and I have no idea what it is. And I'm taking a look at this. And what is this? Oh, I know what this is. Okay. This is not something to be shared for everybody else. This is Eugene Shields. Eugene passed away. He actually wants me to... so many people, man. So many people. He wants me to do a print of Eugene with my machine. Yeah, it's been kind of a rough year because it's been so many people left and right that you don't expect to lose. My nephew. No, it's just crazy. Stewart, my brother, and I know all of you guys have lost a lot of people too. It's just one of those things that it's just crazy. It makes you realize how valuable and important time is. One of the things that's kind of interesting is lately you've seen more and more former Dallas Cowboy players on the shows. And the thing that's interesting about it is I almost equate it to being a little league coach with your son on the team. You have to be harder on your own son to show that you're not playing favoritism in order to get into the club. You can't be the homer. Now, Chris Canty kind of could be the homer for the Cowboys, but he's about the only one. Everybody else kind of has to shun the Cowboys and stuff. So we've got another one here going on today with a little bit of Colin Cowherd, and I actually want to watch it. I haven't actually seen this clip or anything on this one, but I'm curious what we've got today about the Dallas Cowboys penalties. Now, last night, if you watched actually my fireside chat that went on for, almost an hour, a half hour, which is probably the longest fireside chat that we've had. Everybody's focusing in on the negative of the penalties. And yes, we don't want to have those penalties. Some of those things are first game jitters. Some of those things are, guys who don't have experience and so on. And I'm not saying that it won't be a problem. But we also have to focus in on some of the good things that happened, because what we ended up doing in that game was, without Zeke, without Tony Pollard, We rushed for well over 100 yards. I think 121 yards. Yeah. Without really a passing threat with Cooper Rush, which is huge. One of the problems we had going down the stretch was our running game went to shit. When we played the 49ers, we only rushed for 77 yards, and I think Dak Prescott was like 24 of those. You must be able to run the football, especially late in the season. The other side of the equation is I think we only gave up 39 yards against us for Denver running the football. Again, another one of those things that we gave up like 169 yards on the ground to the 49ers. Those are two things that if those things hold true, this team could actually be really, really good. So let's see what they have to say on the Cowherd Show.
Many of you know that. For years, Isaiah Stanback was a quarterback for the Huskies, and he's a very unique athlete. He was drafted by the Baltimore Orioles. He played quarterback at Washington and receiver. When he was in the 8th grade, he was on the best relay team in America with Nate Robinson from Seattle. Who else was on that?
Nate Robinson and Aaron Brooks.
Who played Oregon point guard, played for the Rockets.
Yep.
Isaiah Stanback, Cowboys analyst, 6 years in the league. You played for Belichick and Tom Coughlin, Pete Carroll, Dan Quinn, Matt Patricia, and now you do some work for the Dallas Cowboys. So let's start with this. 17 penalties. What worries me isn't penalties. I read a story the other day, it was kind of interesting, where Lincoln Riley came out and said, you know, if you look at the best teams in college football, sometimes they're more penalized. They're aggressive. What I worry about is 11 offensive penalties for the Cowboys. Last year, playoff game, guys offsides, guys, it disrupts the flow of an offense. Does it worry you? Last year they led the NFL by a long shot with penalties. You see it. Does it bother you?
It does bother me, but that's what the preseason is for. The preseason is for getting out some of these things that obviously you talk about technique errors, you talk about pre-snap penalties, you talk about post-snap, type of behavioral type issues. You need to get these things out in the open. Now, yes, it's bothersome because of what you left the previous year going from. Right. Obviously, the leading the league, obviously the playoffs, it killed you in a game against the 49ers. But when you start looking at some of the reasons why these guys had these penalties, you had Josh Ball at left tackle, who's a second-year guy for the Dallas Cowboys, who had 3 holding calls, right? He didn't play all of last year. Tyler Smith, this year's first-round draft pick, he had 2 holding calls. Those are things, that's 5 penalties accounted for out of the 17. Those guys are pretty much rookies, first-year, second-year guys. Now, the Dante Fowler penalties, the post-snap, that type of stuff you can't have. Lining up offside, Sam Williams being anxious, trying to learn, okay, where can I be at on the line of scrimmage? Those are penalties that you want to see occur in the preseason so that you can get them out the way. Mm-hmm. This is what you can and can't do. We can go back. We can watch the film. We can make these corrections. If these things continue to happen, now we have a problem.
Well, Bill Belichick in New England was one of the most infrequently penalized teams in the league. So go back to your time in New England. Was it something Belichick talked about a lot? Are the Cowboys perhaps not talking about it enough? What was it like in New England with penalties?
I can speak to my time in New England. Coach Belichick is a very cerebral type individual. I can't speak to what Coach McCarthy is doing within that locker room. I'm not in that setting. I'm not in those meetings. But Bill Belichick was such a guy that you were not going to beat yourself. Everything that we're going to do is going to be to put us in a position to be successful. If we are going to have these issues in practice, we're going to run this play over and over and over again, and then this will not happen in the game. Mm-hmm. I kind of look at it in this perspective. What type of punishment needs to occur in order for you to not do something again, to not become a repeat offender? Right. And Bill Belichick, if you have that area and you do it again in the game, you're not playing. I don't care what position you are. I don't care what your role is. I don't care where you are on the depth chart. There is going to be punishment that's going to be handed down to you. I can't speak to what Coach McCarthy is doing, right? So if he's not handing down any punishments, whether it be for the individual, whether it be for the position, whether it's in the form of conditioning or playing time, if you're not facing those types of enforcement, then these things are going to continue to show back up. So I would imagine coming off of this last game that he's going to address those to ensure that doesn't go forward like he experienced last year.
So one of the concerns with Dallas, and I think this is real, is wide receiver. So Amari Cooper, your best route runner, gone.
Yeah.
I thought Cedric Wilson was a very dynamic number 3 receiver. I mean, he looked special. Not a one, but a dynamic player. He goes to Miami. Yep. So Michael Gallup's off an ACL tear. So CeeDee Lamb, who I like, moves to number 1. It's a different ball game. You're the one. 120 targets. Talk after the game. What I worry about Dallas is they're going to ask Dak, with an increasingly old and unstable O-line, now you got to carry us. And I don't know if he's that. Do you think the wide receiver position for Dallas, are you concerned about it?
I am concerned about it from the depth perspective. I think that they have some talent there. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb is going to be stepping into the fold as the number 1 receiver. Yeah. I don't think that he's an Amari Cooper. I don't want to make that mistake. I think he's talented. I think he will eventually be that or maybe even surpass that. But Amari Cooper was a savvy veteran who knew the ins and outs.
Manipulated coverage.
He just knew how to be where he needed to be and make the big play. CeeDee makes those big splash plays, but he has so much to still learn about the game. He still has to learn how to be a leader. He still has to learn how to have good body language, how to forget about plays. There's a whole lot of other attributes that people don't talk about in terms of what it requires to be a number 1 receiver. Is he talented? Absolutely. But after your CeeDee Lamb, then you go to a Noah Brown, you go to a Jalen Tolbert.
That's a big drop.
That's a big drop-off because Gallup's injured right now. You have James Washington who's injured right now. Both of those guys won't show up until week 1, week 2 of the season. So if you don't have those guys enter to step into the fold at a 2 and 3, now you're dependent on guys that don't have a lot of experience. Noah Brown, like a Cedric Wilson, is very dependable. He's a guy that's been around the program. You could trust him. He's going to be where he needs to be. He's going to make the good play. You don't expect him to make the big splash play, but he's very dependable. Then you have Jalen Tolbert, the draft pick from this year, right? He's a good player. He's going to be good. He's smooth. He's savvy. But, again, he's young. And then there's a guy like a Devontae, not Devontae, but you have Turpin, who's going to be a return man. Can he be a receiver for these guys?
So do you go out and get AB? AB said last week, hey, call me Jerry. Does that make any sense to you?
Not at all. Not at all. AB, unfortunately, as talented as he is, the things that come along with him, the baggage that you have to take along with him is not worth the risk.
Yeah.
Even though Jerry Jones historically has been a risk taker, right? Even though Jerry Jones wishes he would have got Randy Moss back in the day, all these things, he can't put this organization in a position to have somebody that can come up and blow up an organization that is culturally changing.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's kind of pivoting now.
Absolutely.
It's really, really Dak's team because they didn't get Von Miller. They didn't get Randy Gregory. Micah's amazing. But it kind of feels like the offense, Dak has to have his greatest year ever.
And to that point, Dak Prescott is a really good quarterback. The conversation comes up, is he exceptional? Is he elite? All those type of things. I still think as good as he is, I still believe that Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard have to lead this team. And in order for those guys to lead this team, the offensive line has to be intact. And there's a lot of question marks still regarding about how effective these guys are going to be together. Dak Prescott is a very dangerous quarterback when he has an effective running game. When you ask him to throw the ball 40-plus times a game, that's not his thing.
Yeah.
Now, can he do it? Absolutely. Is that his thing? No. So I think that when you allow for him to be a play-action quarterback and these guys can move him around and he can play off, all the zone schemes, now Dak Prescott is one of the most dangerous guys in the league. But this team has not had that effective running game over recent years.
Yeah, and the offensive line, when he inherited it as a rookie and went 13-3, it was most people without question thought it was the best O-line in the league.
Absolutely.
I mean, it was all these guys were in their prime and healthy, and that's just not the case. Plus, they lost Lyle Collins. Another interior lineman's gone. So, again, Belichick, Pete Carroll, you had a lot of defensive coaches. Matt Patricia, Dan Quinn, Pete Carroll, Belichick, a lot of defensive coaches. And I've been on this for about 2 years. That every NFC team that made the playoffs had an offensive coach. I think Joe Burrow, offensive coach. A lot of the young quarterbacks have flourished. Mahomes, offensive coach. Minnesota, I think. Raiders just hired offensive coach. So Mike McCarthy is an offensive coach. The question I have is I usually feel an offensive coach has an identity. Andy Reid is the great play designer. Sean Payton, the great play caller. Sean McVay, the great culture builder. Shanahan, like his dad. Beast. That zone run blocking. What is Mike McCarthy's offensive identity? What is it to you? Having watched every practice, watched the games, the exhibition, what is it?
Coach McCarthy, from my perspective, is a traditional head coach, which means he's a manager of men.
Walks around.
When he walks around, he oversees, and he makes sure that the coaches that are underneath his umbrella are doing exactly what he's put them in position to do. Kellen Moore, he has given him the first right of refusal to call every single play. This is his offense. This is Kellen Moore to day in, day out, which is why you've seen the kind of go away from the running game. Kellen Moore likes to throw the ball. He's from the Boise State, lineage. So he's having to force himself to have an effective running game because he knows that that's what Dak needs. Coach McCarthy has put guys in position like a Dan Quinn. You've seen the comment where Dan Quinn says, hey, I'm coming up behind you. I'm not coming up. I'm around the corner. I'm not coming up behind you. I'm not trying to chase you right now. I'm not trying to be in position to take your job. I'm here to support you. And that's exactly what he needs. So he has a really good guy on the offense side of the ball with Kellen Moore, who's leading this team and figuring things out as he's a young offensive coordinator. He has an experienced Dan Quinn and the defensive coordinator who has amazing assistant coaches underneath him, George Edwards, Joe Witt Jr., Al Harris, former cornerback. He has a lot of really good guys. This team has amazing coaches. This is like the all-star lineup of coaches. So in terms of leadership in that regard, I don't think there's any better team out there.
So Aaron Rodgers complained publicly yesterday. Listen, I don't mind.
All right, we'll get off of that about here. Well, it remains to be seen if this all-star group of coaches can coach the Cowboys further than they've gone. I agree with him 100% that, with CeeDee Lamb, that you're okay with the guys that you have that are unproven. Problem will become is if there's a problem with CeeDee Lamb and before you end up getting back, some of your other players. So we'll see if anything happens. But Antonio Brown, that's a no-go. That's a non-starter here. All right, good people. I will see you live at 2:30 today Eastern. I hope you guys have a great Thirsty Thursday, and we will see you guys soon. Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report.
One hell of a job, and the only thing else I got to